program, leaving some top Democrats warning of a potential government shutdown. Let's bring in GOP strategist Lauren Zelt and former Democratic governor of Vermont, Howard Dean. And Lauren, let me start with you and the image that we saw there, the president with Steve Scalise and Kevin McCarthy, other members of the Republican leadership projecting, in a visual sense, unity among those ranks. How much does that translate to real life? How much unanimity or agreement do you think there is between the president and Republican leadership in Congress on this issue and others?
Well, I think that what the White House is asking for regarding the border wall, I think that's more of a negotiation tactic. You know, he has to talk about the wall to appease his base. However, it's not a very politically popular concept. But what is politically popular is protecting dreamers. Various polls have showed that at least 80% of Americans support finding a solution for dreamers. So what I think would be better to do for the president and for leaders on the Hill would be to come to an agreement on DACA. Certainly you could include some border security measures, but the political consequences of not addressing the DACA situation are dire.
Governor Dean, does President Trump get that? I go back to that article in the Times from a couple of weeks back about a meeting on immigration early in the summer in the White House in which the president expressed some sympathy for the dreamers. Why isn't that manifesting itself? Why can't he get beyond this one facet of his immigration policy?
I think it's almost impossible to say why Trump does what he does. He does live in a bit of an alternative universe. But I would agree. I think there's no reason for the Democrats to vote for the continuing resolution if they don't get anything out of it. And the two things that we care about the most are the reauthorization of the Children's Health Insurance Program, which is having an immediate effect now on kids losing their health insurance, and the Dreamers. And so if they're not willing to compromise on that, why should they expect Democratic votes? They aren't going to get any.
Governor Dean, these demands were delivered to Dick Durbin, and he invoked what the president said a few months ago, that there was or there is such a thing as a good shutdown. At this point, are you convinced that there could be one and the American people would not see the Democrats as culpable?
I don't think the Democrats can be possibly painted as culpable. I'm sure that, people on the right will, but they're in charge of everything. They control the House. They control the Senate. If they wanted to pass a continuing resolution with anything in it they wanted to, they could. Their problem is they don't have the votes in their own party. They can hardly expect to rely on the Democrats to vote these ridiculous right-wing things that are going to be in that bill without some concessions to the people we care about.
Lauren Zelt,
especially children.
Yeah, Lauren
especially
Zelt,
children.
Looking at who was lined up there today, stage left, Paul Ryan, the House Speaker, and you look at this book by Michael Wolff and the description of the uneasy relationship this president has had with the Speaker of the House from day one. Paul Ryan was not shy of expressing his distaste for the candidate Donald Trump when the campaign was underway. What kind of relationship have now? Who's he working with in Congress? What's your sense of the level of the working relationship between the White House and the Congress?
Well, I think, what's going on Capitol Hill, you do see some people who are very willing to work with the president, try to come to some agreement. Some people like Lindsey Graham, who is also a very, very vocal critic of the president on the campaign trail. But look, ultimately, what I wish that they would have talked about today was, continuing to tell people about, the tax bill that passed at the end of the year. We had a great momentum going into the end of the year. And also what they discussed today at Camp David, whether it was an infrastructure plan or also coming to an agreement on the Dreamer issue. That they would have been much better served to discuss that today.
What do you make of the president here, Lauren, talking about his mental acuity, responding to what's in that book, responding to what's very much in the zeitgeist here, a conversation about whether or not he's up for the job and engaged with the job?
Well, he would have been much better served to not have addressed the book at all. If he had spent this weekend and the past couple of days reminding people about the tax bill, talking about the agenda for this year, he would be much better served. And I do believe that he's adding fuel to the fire and probably selling more books for Mr. Wolff by continuing to discuss it.
All right, Lauren Zelt, thank you for the time this afternoon. Howard Dean, we're going to have more from you in the next hour. Please stay with us. And still ahead, dangerous cold.